Weird.
That'll please Gow.
Guess sucks.
Gow doesn't suck. Gow's a good
You're
bloke.
spending a couple of weeks with Kenny Yong. G-Man.
Welcome to Born to Watch, where three old mates, an ex-video shop owner, an industry insider, and a black belt in 80s kung fu movies put their mastery to the test on movies that changed the world.
Hey there, fellow watchers. It's that time of the week again. It's Born to Watch time, and we are live from the panic room as Gow's playing with his breasts in front of me. I can't actually contain myself. Actually took me back to that waterhole with Linda Kozlowski. Stop it, Gow, please. My name's Whitey, and I'm the host of Born to Watch, and we are a full complement today. Obviously, I've got the boob fonder opposite me, Gow. How are you, mate?
Very good. Great to be back. Cracking episode. Looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it will
Iconic Australian movie in an iconic year.
Definitely, yeah.
Well,
it's a big year.
1986, Whitey.
We love 86.
The big one.
This is the big one. It could be.
Yeah.
But we won't get to that because Dan will probably rip in. And you know, how are you, mate? You up there on the land, living large, on his own?
Yeah, big week on the land. Family's away again, so I've been left to my own devices. So not a lot of progress in several of the chores on my chore board, but I did manage to build a few seats today. Bunnings had a special on Adirondack chairs, so I cut sick and managed to put a few together before the pod. So a bit of a strange time for us to be doing the podcast too. It's a little uncouth of me to be getting on the sauce at 1 o'clock on a Sunday, but if it's podcast, it means rip into a few tins.
Yeah, well, it is. And look, today we continue with the Aussie feel, and we're going to chat about a movie that took the Aussie industry, the film industry, to the world in a huge way.
Don't think I don't know what you're doing when you wind up and go straight into talking about the movies either. You've been doing it for weeks and I'm fucking over it. So if I feel like gibbering about something else, I will just change the subject.
Yeah, okay, flat pack Dan. Let's just fucking move on and talk about what we're here for. I couldn't give a fuck about you using some cheap freaking Allen key that Bunnings gave you to put together $6 Adirondack chairs, all right? No one cares about that.
No,
they care about...
It's a sustainably sourced wood. I made sure I did that before I bought it. Cause
yeah, I'm sure it is.
Is it Jutty wood?
It's Jutty wood.
It's Jutty wood.
It's not,
yeah.
It's not Balinese Jutty wood. No. So, but if you go up to M Head's house, he's still running heaps of Jutty wood throughout the
quality
film,
wood.
So,
it's quality wood.
Well, look how long that's lasted for.
Yeah.
I mean, how many years ago do we bring that back?
Well,
that's sustainable wood.
Well, he tried to burn it. Wouldn't burn.
Parky'd still be running his full bedroom suite with Jutty
yeah, that's
wood from 96.
Yeah, that's only because he's too tight to buy a new one. Anyway,
look. Shout out to Parky.
Parky, well, I'm sure he's a huge listener. Today we continue the Aussie feel, and we're going to talk about a movie that really took Australian cinema to the stratosphere. And it actually could be the single best piece of tourism advertising in history.
Not Mad Max? You don't think Mad Max was a good piece of tourism advertising?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think it that probably drove people away.
Different take on the outback of Australia, that one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, the one road, Anarchy Road.
Yeah, that's right.
That only went one way. Look, an Aussie legend had an idea that turned into a cultural phenomenon. And you weren't Aussie if you didn't see this one in the cinema, coming out in 1986, which could be our favourite year of cinema. But I'm sure we'll get to that at some stage.
Another year's our favourite year of cinema. Every freaking year from 82 to 2019 is your favourite year of cinema. But anyway, I digress.
But look, to be fair, he has said 86. So we're going to get through some of these movies in a little bit and we'll see.
Fuck off, Daniel. You know that we love 86. Stop trying to just be divisive within the team, right? Stay in your lane.
I did a bit of research about like good podcasts this week, and it says you've got to have a bit of conflict.
We've got conflict. Don't worry about that.
I'll be
we
the
talk a lot behind
antagonist.
your back.
Yeah.
We talk a lot behind your back.
Nice.
And look, if you didn't see this movie in the cinema, you weren't an Aussie. I actually remember.
I remember where I saw it this time. This one.
Okay, well, that's coming. So you're going to forget in the next freaking 2 minutes?
Possibly, but anyway.
Okay, well, we're going to run that risk, okay? We're going to run that risk. I clearly remember seeing this for the first time in the cinema. Look, it spawned 2 sequels of diminishing quality, hugely diminishing quality, with the third one being just heinous. But
I don't think I could tell you about the third one's quality because I don't know if I've seen it.
I think I've watched about 8 minutes of it. It's awful. Yeah. Look, but even that can't take the shine off the amazing film that is Crocodile Dundee. And look, here's the trailer.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
Two beers, all right? One for me, one for me mate.
A legendary figure about to encounter a world more treacherous than any he has ever known.
G'day. Mick Dundee from Australia. How are you? I'm fine, how are you? Just came down for a couple of days. Probably see you around. Bye.
Is this your first trip to New York?
First trip anywhere.
Well, we might just have to give you one for free.
Yeah. One what?
How are you finding New York?
A bit of a lunatic asylum.
That's why I love it, because I fit right in. G'day.
Hello.
Sorry. G'day. Look.
My bag! Stop it! Stop it!
When are you coming home, mate?
Well, if you can manage, Wal, I'd like to stay a while. Wouldn't have anything to do with a certain lady writer, would it?
Paramount Pictures presents
Your towel, Senor Meek.
Paul Hogan
Hey, my man, what's happening?
Where?
as Crocodile Dundee.
You got a light, buddy?
Yeah, sure, kid.
And your wallet.
Got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
Crocodile Dundee.
Quality trailer from Hogs there. And Morgs has already alluded to him remembering when he first saw this movie, which is amazing for this podcast because Morgs has the mind. Morgs has the mind of a goldfish. So Dan, let's lead with you before you forget. When did you first see Crocodile Dundee?
Well, it was 1986, and it was actually released a lot earlier in Australia than it was internationally, and it was slightly different. I'm sure Stats will rabbit on about it later in a far less dulcet tone than my own. But yeah, early 1986, I was still living in Melbourne, had yet to move back to Sydney, so I was running a fairly significant mullet into rat's tail. And I went and saw it with my brother and my mother, and my old man was overseas at the time, flicking pencils around the world. But yeah, I remember seeing it and just being blown away. I didn't know anything about it, but I can remember just walking out and going, wow, that was incredible. I can't believe I'll be part of that industry in about 15 years and just cutting sick myself. So yeah, actually remember going to the movies for one of the movies.
Yeah. What about you, Gow?
I can't remember where I saw this. Definitely in the cinema, but I can't remember.
Yeah, look, I can
It definitely wasn't in Melbourne.
No, heaven forbid.
Definitely wasn't in Fitzroy Twin Cinemas.
No. Fitzroy wouldn't have had a twin cinema. It would have been one cinema. Right. Look, I saw this at Hoyt's Ringham Mall.
Oh,
yeah, Hoyt's Ringham Mall. It was Hoyt's twin back then. And I distinctly remember, it came out in 86, and this probably started my love affair with the movie Aliens. There was a wall display, which was like a frame behind glass, and it was the poster of Aliens, and it was Ripley's Reeboks. Actual Reeboks were in the display. Yeah. And even to this day, I remember clearly walking past and going, fuck, I want to see that movie. And yeah, we'll talk. I'm sure we will cover Aliens, and I've got a lot of stories about Aliens, about where my love affair started with that.
Did Johnny Bull say much about the Aliens special screening he had the other week?
He loved it. He put some stuff up on Facebook about it. Took a lot of photos.
I saw that.
They actually burnt the print and had to.
That's right.
They had to restart and start again. Michael Bean was there, so they did a question and answer with Michael Bean, which was amazing. Who we're hoping to get on the pod through Dan's contacts. Mate, he said it was amazing. He said it was, we should have been there. There's a lot of F-wits there that they're right up our alley and it could have been a big sales pitch for Born to Watch.
Yeah, that
And
sucks.
And in saying that, just on Saturday gone, he went to see Big Trouble in Little China at the Orpheum again. And he said it was full of F-wits. Said it
How
was
good.
quality. Yeah, so we've got to get down to the Orpheum they got a Die Hard Christmas special coming up.
Yeah, I saw that.
We might have
ads
to
for that. Yeah,
we might have to
that would
shoot
be
down
unreal.
there for a day and go see something at the Orpheum. Look, let's do.
Maybe we need to get something up here.
Well, I think that's
the GC.
that's what we're building to. I think
Yeah.
we're going to have Born to Watch cinema, retro cinema, and we'll be able to get all the F-wits, all 7 of them. We'll have 12 seats in case they invite a friend, and we'll run retro films every weekend.
We're just going to run it in the studio here, as Damo suggested.
Possibly, well, in the broom closet.
We've got a TV in here.
Yeah, we do actually.
We just
We
run
could
it
do
in here.
We could do
Me and the perp will be in the broom closet.
Well, she'll like to hear that. She'll like to hear that. Okay, well, let's do, because we forget it. And when we say we, that's the collective we, essentially just me. Let's run with overs and unders up front. Look, this movie came out in 86, so it's nearly 40 years old. I'm going to go 25, right? Because I think that's a pretty fair thing. Let's start with you, Gow. What do you reckon, over and under 25?
Well over 25.
Yeah, okay, good.
Got to be well over 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did 25 for you, so
Yeah,
I thought it's a safe play.
Yeah, no, very, very safe.
Yeah.
I'm well over 25.
Well over 20.
for sure.
Excellent. What about you, Dan?
The dialogue, unlike a lot of movies where my brain has lost the ability to retain dialogue of movies that we used to be able to quote from start to finish, I was able to predict pretty much everything the characters were saying in this. I've obviously seen it many times, but
Yeah.
I'm going to say 25 on the knocker, only because I can't remember the last time I saw it before this week.
Well, just rewatching this movie, there's so many. I mean, obviously, there's so many quotes that we'll get to in this, but so many of them I just remember you saying to me
Totally.
so many times that these have come out of your mouth. Like,
Yeah.
there's tons of them.
Yeah,
We'll get to those later.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And even like, yeah, I just remembered the whole subway scene at the end. I word for worded it.
Yeah.
You know, and the black guy who's amazing, you know, what do you want? Like, there's just so many just cool things. Look, I'm over 25, well over 25. I watched this with my daughter probably 6 months ago, introduced her to it because she's becoming a fan of crocodiles. So, yeah, over 25 and probably well over 25. Gow, tell us about the movie.
All right, here we go. From the Australian outback to New York City, Michael Dundee is about to survive a different kind of jungle. Intrigued by the near-death experience of the rugged hunter Michael J. Crocodile Dundee, after a close encounter with a monstrous saltwater croc, the New York City reporter, Sue Charlton, travels to Australia to meet the legend in person. There, in the dusty hamlet of Walkabout Creek and the formidable outback, dangerous situations and unforeseen romantic complications await. However, Sue already knows that nothing compares to the urban jungle of the Great Big Apple. So, like a fish out of water, Mick leaves Australia for the first time in his life for Manhattan's concrete maze, where he comes face to face with the complexities of modern life. But will the unpretentious bushman ever adapt to the big city?
This is the quintessential fish out of water movie.
Yeah.
Two halves, two fish out of
Yeah.
two different waters, right? And I only just driving down here to do the podcast, and I was thinking, fuck, this movie is similar to Coming to America, right? It's so similar where the guy comes out and you liken the slimy Richard to bloody Eric LaSalle.
Yeah.
You know, they're that same scumbag. It's so similar, but so good.
Well, it's a
So
fairly
good.
straightforward story, isn't it?
It
Like,
is.
You know,
It is. Boy meets girl.
yeah, but comes into one
Yeah.
environment, and then they move to the other environment where one of them's not used to it.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's well done. Look, so let's do the ratings for this. And this is a weird one because IMDb have got this rated at 6.6 out of 10. Now, after last week's Mad Max, which was 6.8 out of 10, is there some issue with Australian film? Because this is a much better film than 6.6 out of 10, I would have thought.
This would have gone much bigger though.
Mate,
in
it was
the US. It was
we'll-
huge.
we'll get to it.
But man,
it
how
was
does
the second biggest grossing film of the year.
Yeah.
Only beaten by one of the greatest movies of all time. So I don't know. Look, but look on Rotten Tomatoes, it's certified fresh at 89, which is critics, but it's 59% audience score. So I don't get that. So that's 6 out of 10.
I definitely don't get it because I don't know what it means.
No, well, none of us do. But I just know that only 59% of the audience like it, apparently. And I don't get that.
How can you not like Hogs?
I know. And I'm sure we'll get to that in Good, the Bad, the Ugly. Yeah, so look, these ratings are fucked, in a word. And I'm sure we'll...
Pretty much.
When we get to the rank bank, I'm sure we may have something to say about that. But Gow, why don't you tell us about the cast?
Well, obviously the main big major star here is Paul Hogan. First major movie role. I mean, obviously been around in Australia, been working on the Harbour Bridge. Don't know if
Yep.
everyone knows that, but he used to be a painter on the Harbour Bridge, and he actually got his start doing comic relief on A Current Affair. You know, he got a recurring role because he's a pretty funny fellow. And then that expanded into a version of the Paul Hogan Show, which I don't know if any of you guys watched that growing up, but it was the funniest show on television, I thought,
Do you know what
of all time.
Do you know what the Paul Hogan Show reminds me of? Greg Highfield.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because he was a slave to the Paul Hogan Show. Like, if you go to him now, I'm sure he can quote 30 different skits from the Paul Hogan Show.
Yeah. I just remember it being so funny as a kid
Oh,
watching that.
God.
Just hilarious.
So Leo Wanker.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
But anyway, yeah, so he started on that, and then he was in Anzacs in '85. Do you guys remember? Well, we talked about
Yeah, we
Anzacs
talked about
last
Anzacs
week.
last week, yeah.
Corporal Cleary in that, which was a great Aussie miniseries.
Kennedy Miller miniseries.
Yeah, that's right. But after that, then he was straight into this. So he created and co-wrote this, but it earned him a Golden Globe for Best Actor, and there was also an award for Best Screenplay, or a nomination, I should say,
Oscar.
for an Oscar for Best Screenplay. But look, going through Paul Hogan's movie career after that, I mean, Crocodile Dundee 86, Dundee 2 88, Almost an Angel 1990, Lightning Jack 94.
That is awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Well, he's running his
he's
running his popularity
It's
here.
his tax scam, though. This is the
Well-
tax scam in full blown.
And he was Porter Ricks in Flipper in 96.
That started Elijah Wood, didn't it? I think
Yes,
Elijah Wood was in that.
I think Elijah Wood was in that. Floating Away, a TV movie in 88. Crocodile Dundee in LA. Strange Bedfellows
Yeah, that's
with
not
Michael Caton.
Good. That's not good.
No, now it's actually, I saw on there that it's now called I Now Pronounce You Vincent Ralph. So whether that was changed for the US, I don't know.
I'd say that's a US change. Yeah.
Very similar to Chuck and Larry.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Charlie and Boots.
God,
So, but look, his film career wasn't super huge. I think once he did Crocodile Dundee, I mean, he was made, right? He didn't have to do too much after that.
Nah.
Moved to the US.
Just dodge the tax man.
Yeah, well, that's right, for quite a few years. But look, he actually said, like, here's a quote from him: "What career? A man's got a body of film of about 4 movies in about 10 years or something. I do it because I think I can do a good job and I'll enjoy it, do it, and sort of vanish. I don't want to be an actor for hire." So,
Yeah, fair enough.
which rings true to what he's done. I mean, he parlayed that into a fair bit of success, but didn't do too many movies after that.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure he's been involved in production and direction of quite a few.
Yeah, I'm sure he's he's financed a few along the way, no doubt. No doubt.
Brings us to Linda Kozlowski. So she was actually a graduate of Juilliard and had Broadway play experience. She's trained as an opera singer while at Juilliard as well. So a lot like you, Morgs, classically trained thespian with a singing pedigree as well.
Yeah, triple threat, like me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll get to her I got some thoughts on Linda Kozlowski in Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
All right. Well, let's look at her career. She was in a TV series called Nurse. That was the start, one episode in a
Hang on
TV.
a minute. Just hang on 1 minute. How old was Hogs when this movie's made?
47.
Right. How old's Linda Kozlowski when this movie's made?
I don't know.
She's 27.
27?
Just remember that. Remember that.
She was in a TV movie. She did the TV movie Death of a Salesman in 85, and then starred in a movie role of that as well because she had a critically acclaimed performance. But then into Crocodile Dundee, Past the Ammo in 87 with Bill Paxton and Tim Curry.
Wow.
Whitey, you got anything
I've
on
got
that?
nothing on Past the Ammo.
Yeah.
No.
I looked it up and thought, well, there's a couple of stars in there, but I don't remember it.
I can't imagine her resume is huge.
Mate, after that, you got Crocodile Dundee 2, Almost an Angel with Hogs again.
Hogs, yeah. Well, by now she's Mrs. Paul Hogan.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So that's 1990. Village of the Damned in 95, and then Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles, and then she gave it away after that. So not a real long movie career.
Oh, well, again, she's taken the money and run, and
Yeah.
good on her.
But yeah, nominated for a Golden Globe in Best Supporting Actress for this movie.
Okay. Yeah, I think, she's okay. We'll get to her in Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
Yeah, okay.
What about you, Morg? What do you think about Linda?
I was pleasantly surprised on the rewatch. She didn't, until I watched it literally last week, I hadn't given her much thought and her performance much thought. I think she was excellent in this. I thought she did really well. I think that will probably be controversial with a lot of F-wits, but I thought she was perfectly cast and I thought she did a great job. And I think that I never felt like she wasn't right for the character. So no, I have a refreshed opinion of Linda Kozlowski because unfortunately I think I was a bit tainted by the rest of her IMDb filmography, like
Yeah.
Gals just mentioned, because she
Yeah.
didn't do much other than when Hoag's cast her in one of her movies. But as playing across from Hoag's in this, I thought she was excellent. I really enjoyed what she did with the part and with the character, with not a lot. I mean, there's not a huge plot to this film. It's kind of a comedy, romance, action, and film across genre, everything tourism ad for Australia, everything else Hoag's was trying to do with the film. But no, yes, very pleasantly surprised on the rewatch.
I agree.
With her
I agree with you,
performance.
Morgs. Yeah, I thought their chemistry was really good. They bounced off each other very well. I mean, he's a fantastic actor anyway. But
Well,
yeah, she did really well.
and I'll get to it now. I've got it in Good, the Bad, the Ugly. But while we're talking about this, yeah, I agree. I think in the first half of the movie where she's a strong journalist, go-getter, I think she's really good. I think it's in the sweet moments where it feels quite awkward. Like, and there's a quote where it's like, I'm always okay when I'm with you, Dundee, after the knife scene. I just find those bits for me were just a bit like, oh. And it's really been nitpicky, but I think she's good in the start. I think it's when it becomes a bit emotional that she's a bit weak. But yeah, looks pretty good in a G-string, which is controversial at the time.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the red dress.
Yeah. I've got another thing about the red dress as well. But anyway, continue.
All right. Well, then we go in. Look, there's not a lot of actors in this movie, but we've got John Mellion, great Australian actor over a long time.
Yeah, he's a legend.
John Mellion in this had 4 scenes, and in every one of them he is excellent. So you're about to gloss over John Mellion, and I won't.
No, we're not glossing.
No. Oh, I thought he was an integral part of the tone of the film, and I think that he had fuck all to work with, but every line he delivered, I was so impressed with him on this revisit.
Oh, he's unreal in this movie. I mean, he really adds to it.
Mate, what about...
He really adds to the character of Crocodile Dundee, for sure.
What about when Linda, when they first sort of about to set off and she says to Wall, well, you know, how good is he? He goes, oh, he's the best bushman that there's ever been. One of my best students.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I laughed so hard almost every time he opened his mouth.
Yeah.
He's so fucking good.
And he's good in 2 as well.
Yeah, he almost steals the show.
Yeah.
He's in it for so little, he almost steals the movie.
But yeah, he started in a movie called The Sundowners as Bluey Brown, 1960, with Peter Ustinov, Robert Mitchum.
Wow.
Mate, he was Nimble Norris in a couple of episodes of Skippy. Division 4 in 1970, Matlock. And he was in Walkabout with another of the movie stars, David Gulpilil, in 71.
I've got to have another look at Walkabout. I haven't seen that for a long time.
Yeah,
it's a very good film.
Yeah. Mate, he'd been on Dynasty, Bellbird. He got a Logie for Best Supporting Actor on the Dismissal.
Hang on. Did you say Dynasty?
Yeah, he was on Dynasty. Is that an episode, more? Just an episode.
The Dismissal, that's the miniseries about Gough Whitlam.
One. The
That's
83,
great as well. Kennedy Miller again.
Yeah, so best Logie, or Logie for Best Supporting Actor. Then into Crocodile Dundee, a movie called Bullseye in 87 with John Wood. And then Crocodile Dundee 2, but he passed away in 1989 from cirrhosis of the liver. So unfortunately, he was only 55.
He really looked like he loved to drink.
Yeah.
He really did.
But one of the biggest roles he had was he was the voice of, and still is the voice of VB Bitter.
Oh, Hard Earned Thirst?
Yep, that's him.
Wow.
And he did it for so many years, and after his death, his son took it over briefly, but then they started using computer enhancements to his voice. But yeah, he was still running that up until at least 14 years after his death. They were still using his voice for those ads. I actually went back and listened to a couple of them. They're so good, those ads.
Oh, mate, the beer ads, the Australian beer ads are some of the best of all time.
Two of his and VB ones were cracking.
Yeah.
Then, as you mentioned, David Gulpilil, First Nations actor, born in 1953. I mean, look, his first movie was in Walkabout. He learned to speak English on the set of Walkabout. He didn't know it. He knew a few different Aboriginal dialects, and he learned. He was quite a quick learner, apparently. He's another of Morgan's favourite movies, Mad Dog Morgan, 76.
He's great in this. He's in 2 scenes, and he's excellent in both.
Yeah.
I loved that whole little 5-6 minutes that he's in.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Like when he walks off through the bush.
Yeah. He choreographed all that's good, isn't it? Ah, jeez.
Yeah, I hate the bush. Some say they're telepathic.
There's so many good lines in the movie. But yeah, he was Fingerbone Bill in Storm Boy 76.
What
I
a
remember seeing that
movie.
as a kid.
Oh,
Yeah,
it made me bawl my eyes out.
yeah.
That's like Watership Down
Yep.
for me. I've still got PTSD.
But yeah, Rabbit Proof Fence 2002. The Tracker.
Oh, God,
he was in Australia 2008.
Tracker's a good movie too.
And he won awards. He won. What did he win for Tracker? He won a 2002 AFI award for Best Actor. He got a Best Lead. He got an Actor award, Best Lead Actor and Best Screenplay for Charlie's Country.
Yep.
2015.
Oh, you've seen that. That's good.
Yeah, and he also his documentary My Name Is Gulpalil in 2020, just before he sadly passed away. Won a Best Documentary award for that as well.
Yeah, wow. He's quality.
Yes, but then look, we got Reginald Vell Johnson, who we mentioned a couple of weeks ago.
We love Reggie.
This is at the start of his career. He hadn't done much before this. He'd been jail guard in Ghostbusters, but that was really it before he hit the big time a year later in Die Hard. So yeah, we won't go too much into him. We're really pretty thin after that.
Oh, it's super thin. Do you know who I noticed is in it? One of the guys out of Mad Max is in it. He's one of the Roo shooters. He's at Mudguts, the skinny one. He's one of the Roo shooters.
Is he?
Yeah, I saw that. I was going through the cast, but there's really no one else in it.
Yeah. Well, no, special mention to Barry Kivell, who's been in a few different movies, A Fortunate Life and a couple others. But he had a role in this movie. I looked it up. His actual title was Coke Snorter. So he was the guy. He was the guy at the party.
Yeah, I got a good way to do that.
Sweet.
What about
Kid.
So Richard, who's played by Mark Bloom?
Yep.
He sadly passed away from complications due to coronavirus in 2020.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah. So there you go. A little bit of just bring the info. That's what we do.
That's right.
Just bring the heat.
What about the soundtrack? Soundtrack stats? Did you look into that?
I didn't do too much on the soundtrack apart from that it's awesome. I really love the music at the Aussie music at the start, and then when it changes, when they go to New York, just that upbeat. It's such 80s music. It was nominated.
Mate, it was nominated for an ARIA. The score.
It was, yeah.
I thought the score was brilliant.
Amazing.
I knew that it's littered with obviously 80s tracks that we've grown up with, Metal as Anything and In Excess tracks and the like. And Michael Hutchins was actually an investor in the film too, Stats. You probably already got that.
They actually did some work on some of the songs, I think, or one of the songs at least.
Yeah, they provided one song.
Yeah.
But I thought the score was,
the score is
epic. Really, really good.
It's so iconically Australian.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
I just love that contrast. Yeah, because it is so Australian. And when they go to the States, we said it reminds me of the Golden Child or something like that. Like just that music. It's such that time, the mid 80s.
How good's the Mentals? Perfect. The Mentals just popping up in the party.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, great.
But look, this movie, as Whitey alluded to before, was the second biggest movie of 86, a gross of 328.2 million, with a domestic box office of 175 million on an $8.8 million Aussie budget.
Crazy.
It's incredible.
So just amazing. So it actually remains the most commercially successful Australian film ever made.
Well, it was crowdfunded, this movie.
Yeah,
essentially crowdfunded.
Well, they put it out there, him and Strop,
yeah.
John Cornell and Peter Faiman, I think, the usual suspects that invested with Hoax, put it out there
they crowdfunded it
to get some money. But it's still one of the most successful non-Hollywood films of all time. Yeah. Just puts it in perspective.
It's a cracker.
But let's look at some others. Do you want to look at some others now?
Please.
So here we go.
When are we going to sing? Just tell me when we're going to sing.
We're getting there.
Excellent.
We're going to roll down. We've got some good ones this week.
Because I held back on, the Mentals and anything. I really wanted to bust Mentals out. But
there's some gold coming for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, don't worry. Got a couple lined up.
86 movies. Best Picture, Best Director was Platoon. Oliver Stone for Best Director. Paul Newman, Best Actor for The Colour of Money. Best Actress was Marlee Maitland in Children of Lesser God. But look, biggest movie of the year obviously was Top Gun, 357.5 million. So it shaded out Crocodile Dundee. Aliens at 3 with 183 million. So a fair gap between those two. But then Platoon, Star Trek 4, Back to School. Back to School did 91 million.
Good movie.
The Golden Child did 80 million, just under 80 million. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Colour of Money in at number 12. Stand By Me.
Well, we've talked many times about 1986 being the inspiration for the Born to Watch podcast.
Yeah.
So, Dan, your thoughts on 86? I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on 86 as a cinematic year.
Really strong. It has my favourite film of all time amongst the releases of 1986 and several others that are very
What is that,
fond
Morgs?
fond to all of us. Well, we'll have to talk about that in the future, G-Money.
Yes. Good teaser.
think-
He's a
That's
teaser.
a teaser, Morgs.
Yeah.
Industry. That's industry knowledge. How to lead people on.
God, F-Wits, this is what I deal with every week. Like, you know,
We learn. We learn.
you don't blow your load at the start. You've got to keep the suspense up.
We
Oh,
learn.
God.
Yeah, we learn so much from this guy every week, don't we?
Yeah. On an unrelated note, Big
Yeah.
Trouble in Little China came in at number 69 with 11 million.
Mate,
Number 69.
cruelly
Terribly
underrated.
Yeah,
Cruelly
terribly
underrated. I think we need to do a episode in the near future about maybe whether it's a part 1 and a part 2 where we do our top 10 movies, each of us, and we start off from 10 and we'd say what our number 10 is and we go down, because it would be interesting to see where some of the movies that we talk about often sit. And I know it might be hard for Gow to do a top 10.
I reckon
But,
we'll probably have one movie that crosses over between all three of us.
Oh, I disagree. I disagree with that. I think there'll be 2. I think
Yeah.
there'll be 2.
Are you guys thinking No Retreat, No Surrender? Like, is that what you're thinking?
But I think that's you want to talk about Dan having some conflict. I think that might be a good episode where a bit of conflict would come in. Because I'll be shooting down your independent cinema every time you open your mouth, Daniel.
Oh, F-Wits.
Well-
I look forward to it.
Here we go. There won't be much conflict here. There'll be a bit of joining in because here we go.
Okay.
Number 1 songs. Number 1 or top 100 Billboard songs for 1986. Number 1 here.
Can I have a punt?
Have one punt.
Is it Living on a Prayer?
It is not Living on a Prayer.
Oh no.
It is a song by Dionne Warwick and Friends.
Oh, God. That's what friends are
Is it?
for.
Is it? That's what friends are for. Oh, my God.
That's
That's not the one with Aaron Neville with the.
No,
No.
I'm not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder's in it, Elton John. Number 2 song, Lionel Richie.
Far out. Is it Hello?
Say you.
Oh God.
Say me.
Oh, God.
Say it
86
together.
Sucks.
Yeah. Number 4 was On My Own, Patti LaBelle. Now I don't know that one, but all I can think of is Stan Bush. On my own tonight.
I'm sure it's not that one. It should be, but it's not.
Morgs, here's one of your favorites, Mr. Mister, in at number 5, Broken Wings.
Take these broken wings.
So this is the US top 10 or the Australian
Yes,
top
US.
10?
Yeah.
Should have done the Aussies.
No, well, the thing is that I've got a little list here about the 100 greatest songs from '86. It's not Billboard.
Mate, Eddie Murphy is up there, number 7, Party All the Time.
Yeah.
My girl wants to party all the time, party all the time, party all the time.
Mate, there were some great songs released in '86. Walk This Way, Run DMC and Aerosmith, which was the turn the corner for Aerosmith.
Yeah,
I was watching the Beastie Boys documentary again.
Yeah,
last
that's a
night.
good flick.
It's just fantastic. But they do a lot about when they were touring with Run DMC and Aerosmith would come and perform. Aerosmith would fly in just to perform that one track. And Adam Yauch got up with them at the behest of the Run DMC guys. So you've got Joe Perry and Steven Tyler come on. It's their big moment to do Run DMC. And then Yauch jumps up with his bass and jumps up on stage as well. And then tries to do back-to-backs with Perry. And he wasn't, he's having none of it. And the band's just pissing themselves laughing. And, Beastie Boys. Rest in peace, Yauch.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they've got, you got to fight for the right to party. That came out in '86. So, massive songs. Living on a Prayer.
Mate, You Give Love a Bad Name was in at number 30.
Yeah.
On the Hot 100 list here.
Bon Jovi were massive. It's
massive.
It's Slippery and Wet Year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the 2 greatest albums of all time.
Well, I think it might be your favourite album of all time, isn't
Well, it's either that or New Jersey. I mean, that debate will be had.
What about
that debate?
What about the Black Sorrows?
Oh, yeah, look, they're not quite at that level, but they're probably 3rd. They're up there. Linda and,
And then
Vicar.
Joe Camilleri and Vicar and Linda's, obviously their solo albums as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Take My Breath Away from Berlin for Top Gun.
Yeah, from Top Gun.
One of the worst sex scenes in the history of cinema.
Oh, God.
Danger Zone was number 42, speaking of that.
Used it, though.
Kenny Loggins.
Final Countdown, Europe. One of the great songs.
So apparently they hate that song. Most of the guys in the band hate that song.
Do you know what I hate?
Yeah.
It's their only song.
Yeah.
Right? If without that song, they'd be the final nuffies.
Yeah.
I hate it when you hear these bands that I'm not playing that song, we're going to play. It reminds me a bit when where you toss of the coin with Midnight Oil, where you don't know what you're going to get. Just play your fucking hits, Pete.
Did they have any other songs, or are they famous and we just didn't know? That's the only one we've ever heard.
They were probably famous in Sweden where they were from or wherever, but Final Countdown's all I knew them for. Yeah. Some cracking songs.
Yeah. But anyway, look, top shows of that year. This is it's not much point going through. The Cosby Show, Family Ties, Cheers, The Golden Girls, Night Court, Growing Pains.
We've sung them all before.
There's plenty of them there.
Let's go back to songs though, because the quality released by Chris de Burgh, Lady in Red.
Oh yeah,
it was my go-to karaoke song for 15 years.
Yeah, that was part of your wedding too, I believe.
Yeah, but there's no doubt. Probably was.
That was a poem that Morgs and I wrote.
Mate, there's some great songs, some great TV shows. 80, look, let's be honest, how fucking good were the 80s? Just in general.
Yeah.
They were really freaking good.
Mid-80s, cracking.
Yeah, really good.
Cracking time.
Yeah, really, really good. Anything else, G-Man?
No, that's it.
All right, well done. We didn't sing much. And there'll be some people that are very happy with that.
That American top 10 was fucking awful. Like we need to find better tracks.
Well, good year for movies, bad year for music. It appears.
No, but it's good music, just not in the charts. Like a lot of stuff that's just off the pop culture realm, I guess. It's
number 14, Peter Cetera. Glory of Love.
Mate, it's one of the best songs
One of the
all
greatest
time.
songs of all time.
One of the greatest songs of all time. I think it's from Karate Kid 2. One of the great songs. Okay, well done. Let's have question time. I've got 3 questions for you. Is this the quintessential Australian movie? Now, Australian movies have a habit of dealing essentially with subcultures. Now, there are movies like Puberty Blues, which would discuss surfing culture. We had Mad Max, which discusses bikie and road culture. We seem to do subgenres really, really well. Is this the quintessential Aussie movie? What are your thoughts? No thoughts? Daniel, anything? He's asleep.
Look, okay, yeah, look, I think it is the quintessential movie. So Hogs had already gone out and done his, throw another shrimp on the Barbie ads.
Yes.
And, he was selling Australia to the States. This is the next step in that, I guess, taking that laconic Australian humour, which he had in spades all the way over there. And it obviously resonated with everybody.
Yeah.
What a fun place and, different country that we are, we were at the time.
Absolutely.
But quintessential Aussie movie.
World was a lot bigger too. So this was Americans didn't know a thing about Australia, and
that's right.
Hogs and Strop were very strategic in that. They knew that if they served them up a helping of the mythology of the Aussie outback and the character like Hogs and all the freaks at the Walkabout pub, then I think that it was just super smart. They were onto a winner, and that's why they couldn't get any funding from the studios, but they knew if they put the cash together, this was a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, it was.
But the quintessential, look, the Castle's up there for me.
Yeah,
Castle's unreal.
Again, like subgenre.
Yep.
Bogan Australia.
Yeah.
It's like, I agree. This is great. And it brought so much to Australia, this movie. But you're right, it probably isn't the best, but look.
But what else is there? I mean, it's got to be. I mean, it's
right up there.
What do you mean by best though?
Is it the most? Does it explain Australia in the best way? I guess. Does it?
No, God no.
Show us no, exactly. But when you think of Australian film, do you think of Crocodile Dundee? Is this the movie that springs to mind first?
I think it would for a lot of people, 100%.
I think it's too narrow a view. Like, yeah, it's for international audiences. They would say Crocodile Dundee, but if you're saying
Yeah.
does this reflect Australians on film, then of course not.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other discussion.
Hmm.
Definitely. All right. Is Mick the most likable guy in all of cinema?
He's a bit of a dick at the start. So he's obviously, we as Australians can see through that bravado at the start and the misogyny and all the shit that he goes on with, and just think, okay, we know he's taking the piss the whole time, and he's obviously a good bloke. But if you were watching it with fresh eyes, like, he does carry on a bit at the start. And
Well, it was funny. I was watching it with Megan, and the scene, and we'll get to it in Good, the Bad, the Ugly, but the scene where they have the first night, and then they wake up, and then she decides, well, she's just going to go off on her own. And because he's being a chauvinist. And let's be fucking honest, she ain't going off on her own. And this isn't about women can't do it. She's a reporter from New York who doesn't have any idea, and she thinks she can just walk off and do it. That's just taking the women's lib movement a little too far. And sure, he's been a dick then, but there's no way that happens.
I mean,
of course not.
You guys,
nobody's going to walk off.
If you two were writing the story, like, you could not go off. Like, Mick would. Obviously, I'm from the land, so I'd be quite adept out there. But you guys would be just as screwed, and you have penises. So no, I agree. That was probably her mock indignation was probably overwrought a little in that particular scene. But yeah, he does set it up. He certainly got a lot of chauvinist crap going on. But if you look at it, like, there's no real arc for his character. That's the only sort of minor bit that I guess that is that's cut from those rough edges, cut from his character when he goes to New York, and he's actually a really likable bloke. He's and everyone who comes across his path obviously enjoys hanging out with him. So he had to have some sort of change for character, and that's probably the best example of it. But there's definitely some dickish moments that we forgive because we know that he's got a heart of gold.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, what's the go with public engagement?
I said exactly. We watched it last night.
The go with that.
Is that a Hollywood trope, or is that? Do you guys know of anyone that's actually done that?
But is it an American thing?
I don't know. Well, people do it at baseball games and things like that, I guess.
But do they like? Is it a? Have you ever been anywhere where you've seen a public?
Oh no, never seen it.
And go, no, I don't know. Maybe it's an American thing.
Well, we talked about this last night because I said exactly that when we watched it. Our whole family watched it, and I said to Chrissy, "What's the go with that?" And she said, "Well, he wants her in a place where she can't say no, right? Because
that's a good take.
Yeah, I know that's the reason why it is. But like, surely, if you think of Coming to America, you think of Wedding Crashers, you think of this movie, none of them end up getting married.
No,
it just shows how big a dick the guy is more than anything.
I think Morgan's right. It's just a movie trope.
It's a trope, right?
They got to throw it out there.
Yeah. No, anyway, all right, well played. Let's move into the categories, and I think after this one, Morgs has got something special for us. But let's go into the good, the bad, the ugly, where we talk about the stuff that we thought was good in the movie, the stuff that was bad, and if there's anything downright ugly. And we're going to start with Down on the Land today. What do you got for good, Morgs?
Good. I thought the Walkabout Creek pub reminded me of the Time and Tide Hotel at DY. So just I thought that was very good, but the characters in there. So Donk is a special for Leachy, and I reckon that all of the characters in there, I worked at the Time and Tide Hotel when I was at uni, and I've met every single person that either drank at the place or worked at the place that are featured in the Walkabout pub. So I think that was a true reflection of an Aussie shithouse pub experience for sure. So I thought that was really good. I love the fact that this was crowdfunded. I love the fact that Hogs and Strop backed themselves and just knew they were on a winner. It was just such a no-brainer, great idea. They were just going to strategically sell this mythology of Australia to the American audience, and they just brained it. And they didn't. He did it specifically. And again, you'll probably have more info on it, but did it specifically for the US, but it blew up all over the world. So I think that's great. But yeah, they're my two real favourites about this movie.
I agree, Morgs. And we sort of touched on it earlier that they brought that quintessential Aussie, at the time, larrikinism and the way our country's portrayed to the US, and you're right, it just went huge. And the idea he got, from a guy that had some sort of adventure like that, and he just ran with that and went like this whole fish out of water thing, and that's how the idea came to him, and he ran with that. And I think that's, I mean, it comes across so well. I mean, it's a good lighthearted movie for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody can watch it,
really
and you can still get the
too.
laughs out of it. Yeah,
That's it. But I think you mentioned the fish out of water, which is great and is overused, obviously, as a device in cinema. But to have the contrast between Mick as a fish out of water and Sue as a fish out of water, I thought was awesome. Like it's really cleverly written, and I think really speaks of Hoag's just knocking out weekly television for a dozen years prior to this. Like they've had to, they needed to get a laugh within 20 seconds of Hoag's featuring on with all the skits that he's done. I think he just had the most amazing apprenticeship with comedy writing that culminated in this.
But I think that his talent and his charisma, like it just shines through. I mean, he's always had that. He's always had that humor in him and that larrikinism, and it just shines through so well. I mean, this is the perfect vehicle for him.
Absolutely.
It all goes back to his show. Yeah,
that's it. No, I thought I looked at this critically again when I watched it. I couldn't pull apart any of his performance. I think it was subtle, if anything.
Very subtle.
Didn't overact at all. He delivered his lines perfectly. His comic timing is impeccable, obviously. But yeah, there was no part where I thought, no, he's over his head here. He can't carry a movie. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
Got anything else, Gal?
No, that's it.
Okay, look, I've got a couple of things. You touched on it. Feel good movie. I just found myself smiling uncontrollably through the whole movie.
It's still funny to this day. Even if you've seen it 25 times, it's still funny. Some of those lines, I'm laughing before they come out last night. And I'm going to the boys, listen to this, wait for this, wait for this. Like
95 minutes, again, perfect runtime for this movie. Does not need to be.
It was not a thing. Nothing you would take out.
Nothing. There is nothing. It is the perfect runtime. There's nothing at all. It's just so well done. I think that initial shot, I still remember this to the day where the helicopter comes out of the mountain.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's clever.
Yeah,
you don't even see it. And next thing, it's just there. Really, really good. I love Mick's entrance into the pub.
Yeah.
That's quite funny. Sets the scene about
the knife coming flying in. And
but it's showing us who he is, his assumed persona.
Yeah.
Right? Which I thought, and then he just grabs her and goes for the dance.
But this is the thing about John Million that you don't, like, just even his facial, when he sees the knife come in and she recoils back and you see him go, oh,
yeah,
no,
here we go. Not again.
And, you know, and it's just, he's so good, like, just underrated with that. Like, he just sets that scene so well.
Mick in general, so shaving with the knife.
Yeah.
So shaving and then she comes around getting the knife out and shaving with the knife. Obviously looking at the watch. Yeah, it's 2:20. Yeah. Like, it's so freaking simple but so good, right? But I think in rewatching it again, I think the whole bit where they first camp and it's the kangaroo shooters. Yeah. They wake up and it's the kangaroo shooters and she goes, well, are you going to do anything? He goes, well, it's not illegal. And then she sort of looks at him and he goes, oh, fuck, here we go. So he goes off and next thing he goes, I'm going to go take a piss. And he's there and he goes, shh, give me the spotlight. Give me the spotlight. And he goes, shine it here. There's a big bugger in the trees.
Look at
and
this
he's like,
big cheeky bugger.
He's like, look at this cheeky bugger. And then the guy from behind goes, it's got a gun. Then it just starts shooting. I was losing it. It's so fucking funny.
It's funny, and then he shoots the guy's gun, and he shoots the light out, but it doesn't hurt them at all. Just, and it's quite funny because it takes the piss a little bit there
for sure.
It just makes it a funny scene, right?
So, and then at the end, it's like, good one, Skippy. Like, it's so funny. But then obviously, straight after that's Neville Bell, and like we spoke about David Goldpuller, but he just crushes it. You know, so good.
He did the choreography for those scenes
for the dancers,
all the dancers,
for sure. And obviously, you can't not talk about the New York bar with Gwendolyn.
Yeah.
So that whole scene is next level. And obviously now in 2022, you look back and you're like,
that doesn't pass the test now, does it?
There's a few things in this movie where, like Megan kept saying to me, well, you can't do that now. I'm like, it's a time capsule. It's a time capsule, right?
100% it is.
So you pack of bastards.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But I think the thing that actually resonated with me the most, and it's quite ironic considering that we're sitting here in a podcast offering opinions that 6 people listen to, right? But when she's sitting down and the first time that they meet when they're in the outback and she says to him, well, what's your views on nuclear disarmament and all this? And he goes, well, I don't have any. It's none of my business. And she goes, well, surely you've got an opinion or you've got something to say. You should have an opinion. And he goes, Who's going to hear me out here?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's fucking refreshing, right? Everyone doesn't need to have an opinion. I get the irony's dripping on this statement, but like, you don't need to have, sometimes you just don't need to have an opinion. And he's just living life in his bubble.
Yeah, doesn't know, doesn't care. Like
Exactly
you bastard.
right.
You know, that's him though. He lives out in the land.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about the time. He's doing his own thing, and he's quite detached from city life and
For sure.
and issues and things like that. He's just running his own race.
Yeah. And we spoke about the score, which is next level.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so good. So just Australian.
Yeah.
Iconically Australian. All right, the bad.
I'll run straight into this because going back to the Roo shooters, when they go out there to see where Mick, where the boat got overturned, right? So they drive out there, then they get in the boat, then they go all the way out there. Then Wally lets them off, and they walk, and then they go find the camp first. They go to the boat, and then they find the Roo shooters that night. Why didn't they just drive there? If the Roo shooters could get to where they are in a car, why didn't they just drive there?
Good pickup, Cow.
Yeah, I was watching last night going, well, hang on, why do all this stuff?
Yeah. Well, you've got to show off the outback.
Yeah, but they could have just driven to it and said, and then we'll walk this bit. Instead, they got in the boat, went all the way across.
Of course. Funny.
That's my little bad.
Morgs, you got anything?
When Mick first arrives in New York, he goes into Times Square, and there's a set-up establishing shot of Times Square, and there's all the billboards there, and you've got your normal Coca-Cola, Sony, and there's other one. There's one right at the top on the building in Times Square, and it's for Midori. And do you remember when you used to buy Midori in a teapot? What the fuck was that called? When the Midori shooters that you would have when you go to the pub. It was a moment in time when we started going out pubs where you would buy Midori something or other. My stupid brain won't remember what they're called, but I can summon the taste like Pavlov's dog of those Midori shooters, whatever the fuck they were called. And someone will write in and just laugh at me for
I don't have the same one, but we used to have the Midori and milk, which were the green rats.
Oh, God.
And then we used to play spoof with that coin game.
Oh, what a horrendous beverage. So
anything with for $130 shout too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything with milk.
Yeah, no, that not great.
But Midori.
Yeah, I can't remember what you're talking about, Morgs, with Midori.
Yeah. No.
Wasn't the flaming Lamborghini? No, that wasn't Midori, was it?
No.
No.
I can't remember.
The other, sorry, one more bad was
go for it.
At the end. I was with you, Whitey. I did the whole thing. The two things that struck me most about on the revisit was how big the world was back then. There wasn't social media. We didn't know what was happening in America. America didn't know what was happening here. Mick could quite plausibly have an opinion where he was like, what does nuclear disarmament mean to me in the middle of the Northern Territory? So I thought that was great. What I didn't think was great was the fact that he was packed into a New York subway at the end, and he got to tread on people's faces to go and catch up with Linda Kozlowski. I thought that was improbable that people are going to let him hit their heads with the back of his big heeled boots.
Do you know what I did like though was when he first gets in the plane and he's pretending, no, I'm fine, no worries, and you can see that he's shitting himself.
It's the best, but then when he takes off,
and like I swear that every time we got on a plane, Morgs used to say that. As a plane, we go, Jesus Christ. Every time.
You and I have done that. We would have done that 200 times on all our travels around the world together.
200, mate. Yeah, 200, mate. We did a lot of traveling.
Every time. I reckon we've said that every time. Yeah, that first flight.
Why don't you tell us about it?
What about when we went to that first flight when we went through Japan? We went through Narita, and M-Head still claims to this day that I dropped his bag and he spilt the 2-litre bottle of Jim Beam all through his clothes in Japan, and he had to get off the plane and wear the kimono. And then before digital cameras were invented, we took a photo of him messing around in his kimono. He did a big sumo, where he lifted his leg, and then we got the film processed years later.
Kimono's on us, covering is what you'd think.
And there was this old fella hanging out of the film. So anyway, it was great to travel with you, G.
Morgs, over and under for flights with Jesus Christ. What do you reckon?
200.
Did he have Did he have any Kleenex hanging off the end of his old fella?
There was some Rhodesian Ridgeback hairs hanging off.
We'll get to that in ugly. We'll get to that in ugly, I'm sure. Look, for my bad, I've got something that you said that was good, Morgs, but the Walkabout pub had a little bit of wake in fright about it. Just a little. And I was like, it's Wake in Fright light, but you could just see that maybe at 11 o'clock at night, shit's going south pretty quickly at the Walkabout pub.
Yeah.
That was really it for me. Like, I've got Richard as a cock, but that's an easy one.
Yeah.
But
Have to have a villain.
Yeah, you do have to have a villain. Okay, look, that's it for the. You got anything for Ugly?
No.
Yeah, I do. So I'm with you. The Walkabout pub features in good, bad, and ugly this week. But it reminded me of a documentary that F-Wits you need to watch if you haven't. I know I point you into the gold every week if you just listen closely. But the whole Hotel Coolgardie, which was about a couple of Scandinavian backpackers that they have a bit of a backpackers route where they go and do a stint at an outback pub, and then they turn them over every couple of months. It's called the Hotel Coolgardie, and it's pretty confronting. So it's like a pub like the Walkabout pub, but it's not Walkabout Creek pub, but certainly not as isn't set up as fun as that. But yeah, just go and check it out. Hotel Coolgardie, you will enjoy the viewing.
Fair enough. Well done. Okay. Well, I've got nothing for Ugly, and I think you've got something that you want to lead in here, Dan.
Oh yeah, I thought I was sitting around. I was listening to that podcast about how to be better at podcasts, and it said that you need to do more categories. So I've got 6 more categories that we're going to do after Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and they're just really quick answers. So I'll explain them this week, but from this week on, we'll just do them in rapid fire succession. So the first one is That's Not a Knife, which is the scene from the movie or dialogue from the movie that's crossed over into pop culture. So it's very easy with this one because it's That's Not a Knife from Crocodile Dundee. So we won't need a riff on that. The next one's Hey Derek, Sprechen Sie Dick, which is the biggest cockhead character in the film. So who do you think that was?
Richard.
She's not going to marry Richard.
Yeah. Has to be Richard. Agreed.
She's not marry Richard.
Next one is the Jennifer Jason Leigh in Backdraft for the character that is performing like they're in another film. So any characters that from this that you had?
Oh,
I had the pimp. I think the pimp was.
I agree. He thinks he's in Saturday Night Live.
Or West Side Story. It looks like he's about to break into song. Yeah, I don't think he was cast terribly well. But
are you going to talk to him? Yeah. Or are you going to fuck one of them?
Did you notice? Because obviously they had the PG rating, so they had to drop that fuck out. Yeah.
But they used the fuck later on in it because you can only have one fuck.
Go. The next category is Ripley running, which is for the worst athletic prowess or running on screen from any particular character. So this was a tough one for me. Did you guys have any that you noticed?
Oh, she doesn't look great when she takes the heels off and she starts running with that terrible hairdo.
Oh no, I think that's harsh.
But she's not too bad. That is harsh. But I don't think there's.
She's trying to go quicker. She's trying to catch him.
I don't think there's much.
Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, Morgs.
What do you got? Anything?
No, it was a tough one. It was Gus, Reginald Val Johnson throwing the boomerang.
That's the one. Yep, that's the one I was thinking of. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. It was a bit of a battler. I don't think he put much heat on that thing. So,
but that didn't need to be done. That scene, I don't think.
Yeah, it was. That was a bit on the nose. But anyway, all good.
Well, that's to show that he's tribal. He's from what's he from the Harlem
Warlords?
Harlem Warlords. That's right.
The next one is robot sentries for a scene that didn't happen in this, but would be instated in a director's cut, and it comes from the brilliant scene in the Aliens director's cut where the robot sentry scene is added, and we get the feeling of dread of how many aliens are actually coming for all of the Marines and Ripley in Aliens. So, is there a scene that you guys think you would like to add that would add to the movie?
Look.
I'll give you some more. Obviously, next week you'll have a bit more time to think about this one.
Yeah.
All I could come up was more John Mallion. I just really enjoyed his character. I think 4 scenes was so light on for him, and I would have liked to have him explaining a bit more about their business in the top end and giving a bit more of an insight into Walkabout Tours.
I think that actually happens in the second one, like we said earlier, which he
does have a
bit more runtime because he's so good and he's got some cracking lines in that. But
there might have been. You could have maybe done a cut scene which showed the croc attack, maybe, the croc attacking his boat, and sort of him being attacked by the croc, maybe. But other than that, I think I agree. It's probably just more John Mallion wherever you can. Just drop him in there.
Yeah, he was great. Final one, sixth of the new category is Whitey's Brad Pitt. So it's the character that each of us would most like to have relations with. So you guys, anyone in particular that stood out?
I didn't mind the dark haired hooker with the curly dark hair. I'll give her a go.
Excellent. Gow.
Yeah. John Million, apparently.
John Million. Yeah, no one of me was thinking about that. I don't know characters in this movie.
What about you, Dan?
I had a real funny feeling about Linda Kozlowski on this. Look, I mentioned it earlier, but yeah, she's a lot sexier in this than I remembered. So that was mine.
Well, the G-string is like era inappropriate. 85?
Yeah.
Like, they weren't a big thing then.
That's all the flosses.
This is all it is.
All they're running down at Noosa Main Beach. So yeah,
definitely. All right, well done, Morgs. Next
awesome,
week we'll be more prepared, so we'll be able to do some quick fire stuff and fire them off. And
good job.
That's well done. Good ad there, Dan. And now let's go into listen to this, a bit of trivia and behind the scenes stuff about the movie. We'll start with you, Gow. What do you got?
Here's a quick one. There was quite a few different versions of his Bowie knife running around the set. They had steel, rubber, aluminium versions, but Hogs kept one of them at the end and promised never to sell it, which would be worth an absolute fortune
worth a lot
these days.
Yeah.
But the idea of this, I think I touched on it earlier, was when he visited New York City and he felt like an outsider, and people thought he was Scottish because
he was actually on his first visit was literally going around saying good day to everyone.
Yeah,
so that scene is like is art imitating life.
Yeah, and that's what inspired him to come with that fish out of water idea.
Yeah. What about you, Dan? Anything?
I had two things. So one of them was apparently there was a real life Crocodile Dundee that actually it ended pretty sadly. So there was Hogs appropriated a lot of the Northern Territory component of this story from a guy that was had a similar story to Hogs. He was a fisherman and he actually got stranded in the Northern Territory about 150 miles from the nearest settlement. He was with a couple of his dogs and actually had to crawl and walk and swim back into civilization over a huge amount of time period. And when they finally found him, he was really emaciated and dehydrated, and he'd lived on buffalo and anything else that he could catch, essentially. But the sad bit is that he actually, after the success of Crocodile Dundee, he hit up, and now I'm not quite sure who he hit up, but I'm just going to say Hogs because he's the writer, but it might have been the production company, whoever, but said, hey, look, you've done really well out of my story. How about you flick me some freight? Because this is essentially my story you're telling on screen. And they tell him to fuck off. But they also, he advertised himself as the real Crocodile Dundee, very similar to Wally and Mick's tour company up in the top end. But he positioned himself as the real Croc Dundee, and he was going to take people on tours around the top end in the Northern Territories, and actually sent him a cease and desist, and he ended up passing away pretty destitute from the end of it. So it all sounds a bit different to the knockabout loyal bloke that we hear about Hogs. And it sounds like someone in the business unit there, whether it was Hogs or Strop or someone involved with the production, was pretty ruthless when it came to protecting that image of Crocodile Dundee. So yeah, sounds a bit shit on paper when you read it. But that was the first. The second one, which actually leads into Film School for F-Wits this week, was there was when the two sequels to this, which we've touched on. I think the second one was it was entertaining.
Okay,
certainly the third one was an abomination, but a lot of the times a trilogy sequel is. But there was talk at some stage, and it got through to a pre-script discussion, was there being a crossover film for Crocodile Dundee. And do you guys know what that crossover was going to be?
No.
It was going to be a crossover of Crocodile Dundee and Beverly Hills Cop. So Mick Dundee and Eddie Murphy would cross paths and get into fucking adventures, a bit like me and Gow traveling around the world, which I thought sounded fucking awesome. So unfortunately, it never got off the ground, and Hogs is about 100 and Eddie's about 89 at the moment, so I don't think it's ever going to happen. But it did get me thinking, and this week in Film School for F-Wits, we're going to look at some crossover films that did end up on screen and some that never made it but were rumoured. So, yeah, there we go.
Okay, I got really one, which is a pretty amazing point, that this is the 5th most watched film in broadcast history in the British broadcast history.
Is that right? Yeah.
It was released on Christmas Day in 1989, and 21.75 million people watched it. So, and it's in pretty esteemed company, to be honest, with Live and Let Die, Jaws, The Spy Who Loved Me, and Diamonds Are Forever, which are 4 Bonds or 3 Bonds.
The Guard?
No, not The Guard. No, not The Guard.
Isn't that one of the biggest British movies?
What about Grange Hill, the movie?
Oh, God, Daniel.
Did you guys watch Grange Hill when you were kids?
No, it's another shit show that you watched. So in 2016, it was rumoured that the film would be rebooted with Chris Hemsworth.
I heard that, yeah.
And they actually filmed a couple snippets. I think they were done for advertisements. And
yeah, it was for Tourism Australia.
Tourism Australia. Yeah. So they started this whole thing, and this massive rumour mill that
I remember that
was going to be. Thank God it's not. Thank God it hasn't.
It was very well done as a piece of marketing. It was actually excellent. They broadcast it during the Super Bowl, so they put some wedge behind it.
So what was nice to see was that this one wasn't overdubbed with American accents like Mad Max was. But in saying that, they did have to put quotes around the word crocodile so that the American market wouldn't think the guy was an actual crocodile.
Yeah.
And I heard that as well, but I don't think that the average cinema goer is smart enough to make that distinction. Oh, there's quotations around that, so it's not a crocodile movie.
Yeah, good point.
I think it was fraught with danger calling it a crocodile movie for that very reason.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. Okay. Well, anyone got anything else?
No.
No, we're all good. Okay. 1 Degree with Kurt Russell was nigh on impossible. Did anyone have a look? Because I couldn't find anything.
1 Degree of Kurt Russell. I'm going to come back to that.
Ooh. Yeah, okay. We're going to leave 1 Degree of Kurt Russell. Okay. Notable quotables. And there's a zillion, but I'm sure we've got a few of our favourites up. And
I think we should whittle it down to just ones that we say to each other.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
So there's many. Gao, you want to start? What are some of the favourites that you and I have thrown at the three of us over the years?
One of the ones I really like that makes me laugh, and I don't know how much we say it to each other. We probably do, but it's when he's got the water buffalo and he honks the horn at it, and it just is moving. He goes, "Get out of the way, dopey!"
That's your dad. That's your dad.
It's true.
That's an owl. Get out of the way, dopey. He was big on dopey.
Yeah, yeah.
What
It's just
fun is
so
that?
maybe that's why I like because it's so quintessentially Aussie.
It's so ocker.
It's such an Aussie thing.
Yeah.
Get out of the way, dopey.
So I read a bit about that particular scene, and they had to dope up the water buffalo so that Mick could do his hang looser. But the thing just sat in the track anyway, and there was no way around it on either side.
That's the other thing.
What was the go?
I've got that later on, and it's like, what's the point? Where did he go?
You made it lie down, and now we can't get around it.
Yeah. Well done, Mick.
One of the good ones is hasn't he got any mates? Well, nah. Back in Walkabout Creek, if you got a problem, you tell Wally. Wally tells everyone in town, brings it out in the open.
No longer a problem.
No more problem.
Oh, mate. Again, there's so many things with John Mellion. Like, you got Windwall is probably the call of the movie. Like him, Mick, like did he? You get a root, you root it. Like, you got Windwall. So good.
One of the other ones was, I was sort of married once. Nice girl, good cook. Big. Then I went walkabout, and when I came back, she'd gone. How long were you gone? Oh, a couple of months. Try 18.
and she didn't wait around.
Strange girl. Yeah.
Yeah. What about the donk though?
Mick.
Oh,
get stuffed.
Are you really an Aussie kid if you haven't said that to your mate on the phone at some stage?
Totally.
Get stuffed.
If you've never grabbed a phone and said that to one of your mates.
So good. All right. Well, seeing we're shortening it down, in one thing I do like, and this just shows how big the world was when he's in the bar. And it's like, I don't mean to put down your Black Widow spider, but the funnel web spider can kill a man in 8 seconds just by looking at him. So clever. Yeah. All right. We got anything else before we move into Morgs' domain? Perfect.
Morgs has got one. Surely, Morgs, you've got one quote here.
Oh no, we've had them all. We've spoken about them all. Just the plane, I think, is the one that we say the most.
Jesus Christ.
So,
Not the bidet one, Morgs.
Sure.
It doesn't. This is F-words. This is something that I've been saying.
Doesn't translate.
It doesn't translate. I've been saying it to these numbskulls for my entire adult life or age.
You're very good at it, though. The way you can sort of get the bidet, it's very good.
I can literally crack these two up just with doing the bidet scene at any stage, but it does not translate to a podcast, so we'll move on.
You
don't even need to do that, mate. You just crack us up just when we look at your head. You don't even need to speak.
Oh, good eye.
All right. It's time for film school for F-wits. Dan, take it away.
Fellow F-wits. So this week, Film School for F-wits is inspired by that little tidbit of information I dropped before, that it was rumoured to be a crossover film that would have Mick Dundee meet Axel Foley in a combo, which I just thought sounded so funny. Like I think it would be tough to convince Eddie Murphy's team that it was a good idea, but if it actually got to become a film, I think it could be piss funny. But it certainly would feel like a bit of a one-trick pony. It would have to blend some elements of Crocodile Dundee 2, where Mick gets involved with the drug smugglers. So there's a bit more action, which is probably not right for Mick's reasonably shallow characterization. So yeah, okay. So it doesn't sound too great. It probably would suck, but it just got me thinking: what are some of the crossovers that have occurred, and some that have been rumoured? And I just thought we'd riff on it for a second. But film crossovers have been a thing ever since, pretty much since film was created back in the early, the late 19th and early 20th century. So it was mostly monster picks where it was a real big thing. So you would have a Frankenstein film and you would have a Godzilla film, and then suddenly you'd have a Frankenstein meets Godzilla film. So it was very common to bring in in the horror franchise to bring in an adversary that had done well in their own standalone pick, and then bring it in so that they mashed them up and hopefully doubled their money. But of, I guess, more contemporary stuff, it does occur a little, probably more often than you've noticed. But one of the big proponents, or proud proponents of it, is Quentin Tarantino. So his universe, where he creates in between all his films, it's his own universe he creates, and he has items and themes and characters that do exist throughout all of his films. But one that is actually one Quentin Tarantino film and one not Quentin Tarantino film that shares with, it's actually a Steven Soderbergh film, is Jackie Brown, the Quentin film, and Out of Sight, which is the Soderbergh film. So they actually have an ADF agent that appears in both films, and it's because Elmore Leonard, both those films are derived from Elmore Leonard novels. So it's interesting that they're able to go between studios and between directors.
It's Michael Keaton's character, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So he appears in both, which really interesting. But staying with Tarantino, so obviously him and Robert Rodriguez did the Grindhouse films a few years back and shared some characters throughout. So that was it's always interesting to see him, but it's probably low hanging fruit when you think of Quentin. But some other films, or one that you may be aware of, was pretty popular for us Gen Xers, was the all of the Silent J and Bob flicks, the Viewer Skewniverse, which were created by Kevin Smith. So he actually in Clerks and Mallrats and Dogma, he actually puts them all together in one of his final films, so that they all of the characters come together, and I guess it's a lot easier too when it's one auteur that has put together these films. So, but definitely all of the characters do meet up in Kevin Smith's film, and certainly Dogma I didn't like so much, and Clerks is up to Clerks 3 or something at the moment. So I think he's definitely
terrible,
wrung a bit too much out of that. But M. Night Shyamalan also does it a bit too, where Unbreakable and Split, the characters actually meet up in Glass, which is another one of his films. So definitely it's been done. Ralph Breaks the Internet, so the animated film, is pretty funny in that it brings a lot of cartoon characters into the mix, and a pretty deep dive into the princess characters that that happened. So yeah, look, it is reasonably common. A couple of really bad examples. That unfortunately, Alien versus Predator was the zenith of when the Alien franchise just shat the bed completely. So. It was actually a series, that Alien versus Predator, so multiple films. Did you do any business out of those out at the shop, Whitey?
Nah, they were not very well received. They're not great movies. The first one isn't bad. It's just, yeah. The second one's heinous.
I never bothered watching those.
No, they're just unnecessary. I'm like you. I've seen the first one. It was pretty shit. But definitely an example of when you've got two sets of IP mashed together to try and pull from the audiences of both, but probably alienated the audience of both, which was which is a shame. But Whitey, some of your favourites, I guess the most common proponent of it has been the MC universe, and they've played the long game with it as well. So they've really set up little bits of little tidbits in a lot of these Marvel movies over the years that have culminated in Avengers Endgame, which brought multiple franchises together from the MCU Marvel universe and had them crossing over and crossing over seamlessly too, which takes a little bit of pre-work too with setting up a lot of the in previous films, setting it up so that it's not too clunky when all of the characters come together. So it's definitely one that is a good example, I guess, of a more recent crossover of film. But some of the more quirky ones that didn't get off the ground. Do you remember the Clive Barker films with Hellraiser with the Pinhead character? So there was a lot of talk about Pinhead meeting Michael Myers and having some horror crossovers. So that was always rumoured, never got off the ground, but got to a stage where they were actually got Clive Barker on to direct and there was a script. So it only fell over really at the final hurdle. And horror is definitely a genre that lends itself to pitting the baddies against each other. There was a Jason versus Michael Myers versus the, what's the character from Evil Dead? I can't think of Bruce Campbell's character's name, but Ash. Yeah, versus Ash. So Freddy versus Jason. Sorry, it was Freddy versus Jason versus Ash.
Freddy versus Jason.
Was one that came together. But there was also a talk of a Seth. Which Seth?
Seth Rogen?
No, it's not.
The bad guy.
I'm sorry, I'm getting my Seths right. Jonah Hill is who I meant. 21 Jump Street. So there was talk of a crossover between 21 Jump Street and Men in Black. And
really?
Yeah. So I think that for people that like those movies, it probably could have worked because I guess they're both comedies. But yeah, not something that I would have hurried to see. But is there anything any crossover films where you think that the cast would mesh together well that you can think off the top of your head?
I don't know about that. I was just thinking, was there a Godzilla versus King Kong?
Oh yeah, that's a lot of those monster
Yeah.
movies from the early 20th century ended up mashed up together and doing quite well in those grindhouse cinemas and the flick of the weeks for sure. So in the 50s especially, that was super popular.
They're not movies, but I'll tell you who did the crossovers really freaking well, which was Hanna-Barbera cartoons. So like you'd have Jabba Jaw and Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Or then you'd have
Scooby-Doo cartoons.
Scooby-Doo and Batman.
And the Harlem Globetrotters.
You'd have the Harlem Globetrotters and Scooby-Doo. Like they just crushed it. They were so good at doing.
How did the Flintstones meet the Jetsons?
Well, and this is it. Like it. That wouldn't be a bad movie, Flintstones versus.
No, there's an episode where the Flintstones meet the Jetsons. It's a real thing.
Right. Yeah,
How the fuck did that happen? And why aren't we flying cars to this day?
Yeah.
Well done, Jetsons, you bullshit artists.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the cartoons did it really, really well. They used to Scooby-Doo were the masters of it. They'd
always have guests.
So
Phyllis Diller was always on there.
Kiss, they had they had heaps of them. They were great.
So TV, there was a lot of X-Files was going to do it with picket fences. I don't know if you guys watched picket fences back in the day. It seems like something that might have been on at your house, Gal.
Tom Skerritt in that?
Yeah, he was.
Tom Skerritt was in picket fences. Yeah.
So there was they got to a stage where they'd actually written the scripts for that, and there was going to be an X-Files and picket fences crossover, but it didn't happen. But they ended up doing the episodes of each anyway, but just took out the references to X-Files and picket fences and did them as two separate episodes on picket fences and X-Files.
Do you know, it's funny that you mention this because I'm just going to show how appalling I can be, is that I was watching some Murder, She Wrote this week.
Oh,
right?
R.I.P. Angela Lansbury.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was probably just because of that, and not because I love it. And there was an episode in season 3, which is a Murder She Wrote Magnum PI crossover.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
Angela and Jessica Fletcher helps Magnum get off a murder charge. And Higgins is in it. It's next
really?
level good,
Wow.
man. I was going, this is the best thing ever. So yeah, crossover can work. It definitely can work.
It was. I mean, Wayne's World had Robert Patrick from Terminator turn up, and so look, it's not. It's more common than you think. But yeah, some of the more fanciful suggestions that sitting around in a production meeting with some execs that I've sat in on and laughed at myself is definitely amusing. So anyway, F-Wits, that's it. Crossover films this week. We grow smarter listening to Born to Watch. So if you just want to fast forward to F-Wits, Film School for F-Wits each week, it's probably not a bad idea.
Which is what Daniel does when he does the re-listen.
Is it
did you say Morgs, did you say fast forward through Film School for F-Wits?
No, two.
Sorry. I got that wrong, mate. Sorry.
There's actually you can get a Google Chrome extension that you can just plug in my name when you listen to the podcast, and it just deletes these two gibberers, and you just listen to me. So I've tried it out, and it works great.
I'll tell you what, it'd be quiet for a lot of the fucking podcast, though.
There's a lot of... There's a beer opening.
All you would hear is beer opening, keyboard tapping, eating, and a muffled burping and farting. That's all you would hear for an hour and 20 minutes.
That's good entertainment.
Yeah. All right. So we're giving Stan Bush Kick-Ass credit song a wide berth again. This week it will be back for sure in next week's episode. So we're going to move into star of the show. We're going to start with you, Gal. Hit me.
Hogs. Yeah. Hogs just is unbelievably good. We talked about it before. His charisma, his timing, the comedy that he's blessed with. This is the perfect vehicle for him, and it always was. So definitely Hogs for me.
Okay. What about you, Dan?
I'm going to go Linda Kozlowski just because on this recent revisit I was very impressed with her performance. So
with her G-string,
it's Linda for me. Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting on a bit, but she looked good.
I'm going to go with Hogs, although, Linda's G-string is a very close second. And it was,
John Mellion's going to be around about there. But
the star move of the show is when Hogs says, "Let me help you with the scratch." And she just moves on to all fours. And he's like, "No, I'm into this." And then poor old Nev ruins it for him. Is that what you were doing?
Is that what you were doing?
Helping,
rendering
first aid. But no, it is Hogs, star of the show. That's an easy one for me. Look, this was a great rewatch. I really enjoyed this, and I have seen it a lot, but I'll revisit this again. I'm going to watch this again with Isabel. I think she'd really enjoy it. I don't know whether she made it through it all the way the first time, but definitely will be rewatching again with her. So, look, Crocodile Dundee, if you haven't seen it for a while, get on it. It's really good fun. Now it's the rank bank, and maybe we will be able to correct some of this pathetic ranking that's gone on IMDb and on Rotten Tomatoes. And look, this one was a bit difficult to come up with what we were going to rate it as, but I've given a crack. So I've got a few here. So we've got gun-toting kangaroos. We've got medium rare goannas. We've got hypnotized buffaloes. We've got awkward public engagement announcements. We've got era inappropriate G-strings. We've got 20-year age gaps, and that's obviously between Hogs and Linda. We've got huge hunting knives, and then the final one is bidets. So what do you think? Few to pick from there. What's your favourite there, Dan?
I quite like the Bowie knife because it's so iconic in the movie, knife, and it's what he carries around with him at all times.
I think more Rambo when I think that knife. I think he got market corrected, unfortunately, by
I think
by
he
Rambo. Did. I think it's bidets for me, just because again that's just made me laugh for just going on 35 years.
Yeah, so. And that's why it was last, because I'm fond of bidets.
Let's do bidets.
I quite liked era inappropriate G-strings.
Also good.
Okay, but we'll go with bidets. So we're going to start with Dan on the land today. And out of 5, Dan, how many bidets are you giving Crocodile Dundee?
You know, you touched on it earlier, and you're really shit at holding your cards close to your chest. But I agree with you wholeheartedly this week. The nostalgia bomb that went off at my house last night when I was watching this film, I had a smile on my face the entire time. I was picking up on things I hadn't noticed, like the score, which I think was excellent, and just the pacing. I thought that there was no dead weight in the film at all. It was nothing but an enjoyable experience for me, and just brought back a lot of really happy memories of watching that film. And just when the world was bigger, like when Australia was so far removed from the rest of the world, there wasn't any social media like all you fuckwits like that social media shit. And
Find us on TikTok.
Find us on, yeah, and check us out on MySpace. And I just think that it was just a really nice trip down, and definitely it made me think about how much time has passed between then and now, and how different it is now. But I just think it was excellent. I'm going to give it 4 bidets. I think it was a really important movie for filmmakers, a really smart movie for the producers and the screenwriters, and deserved of its Academy Award nomination for screenplay for Hogs. And I think, just a culmination of his amazing abilities that honed over years and years and years of Australian television just to create a great iconic character and a subtle performance by Hogs, and just a cast that was excellent. So 4 bidets for me.
Very good.
Well, that sum up was about as long as the movie, Morgs.
Morgs just got all these words out in the rank bank.
I totally agree with you, Morgs. You've said it all there. It's a great movie. It's a great vehicle for him, and it was, it's as watchable to this day as it always has been. So I'm going to give it 4 as well.
Wow. This week's going to be really, really easy because I'm giving it 4 as well. And I'd already typed that in to my spreadsheet. So, Gow, as a 4 bidets, where does Crocodile Dundee sit in the pantheon of Born to Watch films?
Okay, that's going to put Crocodile Dundee into equal 13th spot. Have I got that right there? It's right up there with Beverly Hills Cop and above Commando.
Equal 12th. Equal
12th, sorry. So Commando in at 3.94 elaborate European flat tops. And then we've got Crocodile Dundee and Beverly Hills Cop on 4.
Yeah, and also Step Brothers on 4.
Oh, Step Brothers on 4 as well. Yeah, there we go. Right below Wolf of Wall Street at 4.08 lemons.
I reckon we're pretty bloody good at this, because I would say that's perfect placement for that film. That seems in very good company there of films we've enjoyed equally. So, I couldn't agree with me more.
Yeah, well done, Dan. Look, again, you've crushed it. Appreciate the input. But so 4 there, so it sits right in the middle, which is where I think it deserves to be. Okay, so what are we watching, gentlemen? Gal, you got anything that you've been into this week? I know I can probably say what it's going to be, but
I just finished Better Call Saul. Really slow burning series but well worth a watch. I had to ring Morgs after it and have a review of the ending. But loved the whole show. Just the character arc there of Saul.
I have not watched 1 minute of Better Call Saul.
Fantastic. You got to do that. Yeah. And then I'm trying to catch up on House of the Dragon. It hasn't enthralled me. Watched the first few episodes. I'm at the last couple now, so I'm just trying to get through that as well.
Yeah, perfect. What about you, Dan?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I watched again this week. So I reckon I watch that a couple of times a year. So that'll, I'm sure that'll, we haven't hit any Tarantino films yet, but that was great. But other than that, not a lot. TV's a bit lax for me at the moment. None of the more recent series have engaged me. You can stick the new Game of Thrones right up your schlacker. And certainly Lord of the Rings, that you and Damo have described it as expensive shite. So, if anyone's got any suggestions, feel free to reach out at me, morgs at myspace.getfucked. I'll check it out.
Well, I went to the movies this weekend with Belle, and she wanted to go and see Black Adam, which is the latest DC, restarting the DC universe, trying to combat what Marvel are doing, starring The Rock.
Black Adam.
Black Adam.
Right, okay.
Black Adam.
The Rock one, in yeah?
Starring The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Didn't it have the biggest, it's the biggest opening, or maybe it's his biggest opening movie ever.
Yeah, look.
Something like that.
I don't know how it is. It's not great.
Okay.
It's okay. It's not great, though. She loved it, which was great, but she's 8. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. My son actually saw it the weekend before and fell asleep in it, which is saying something possibly. He may have been hungover. I don't know. But Black Adam is wait until it is released on a streaming service. Don't spend the money. It's only reasonable.
I might go a step further and never watch it in the term of my natural
Yeah,
life.
I won't be wasting my time, I don't think, on that.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is what I'm here for. I'm here to jump on the grade, and I actually may do a little review on that on our Born to Watch YouTube channel, which is going ahead and leaps and bounds. So many subscribers. It's just, mate, it's unbelievable how popular it is. We can't, and Dan's promised he's going to do some video for us when we go up on the land.
Sweet.
To add to that. Okay, so another great episode. Well done, boys. Obviously, Crocodile Dundee is a favourite of all of us, and it's really just hit that nostalgia button in all of us, and I loved it, and I'll watch it again. There's no doubt. I'm sure you will.
Same.
Yeah, really, really good. Another great episode. We've crushed Crocodile Dundee, and next week we're sticking with the Australian theme.
Did you?
Did
you tell everyone? Yeah, hang on. Did you tell everyone to vote for us on that podcast thing?
Oh, it's going up on the socials today, and please vote for us on the podcast awards. I'm sure we'll finish in the top 5,000 podcasts in Australia if you vote for us. Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah.
Well done.
I'm all over it.
You're a social animal. So next week we are sticking with the Australian theme, and we're going somewhere very dark in a performance by Ben Mendelsohn, which is chilling, to say the least. The crime thriller Animal Kingdom. If you have not seen it, it is immense Australian cinema, and it's well worth watching. And it's actually been made into a US TV series, which the guy who directed the movie is heavily involved in that as well. So
Sure, yeah, good. It's a good series too. Love it.
Kick off the Ben Mendelsohn.
Oh, I'd say it probably did.
Because he's had a nut like he spent a lot of years in the wilderness of just no roles that really suited his character, and then after this, I'm sure you'll find he just took off again with a lot of local and international roles. He's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he's amazing. He doesn't get the kudos he deserves.
No,
but next week we'll be doing Animal Kingdom. So watchers, get in it and get on it. And I'm sure Johnny Bull will send a photo with him watching Animal Kingdom in research.
Good on you, Johnny.
And another good episode. Well done, boys. Thank you. Hang on.
You said you had a review. What's the review? You said,
is it about? We did too.
Is it about me?
No, it's not about you. Don't
worry about it.
No, we'll do this because we've been reached out by another podcast, and they hit us up on Instagram, and it was very exciting that the boys from Smoke and Mirrors, who are down in Sydney, have contacted us about. Yeah, I know. Please, so 2012, and they hit us up about our podcast on the raid and said, "Love the episode, fellas," which is funny because you guys weren't on that one. So obviously loved what Damo and I did, but love the episode, fellas. Did you know Gareth Evans initially wanted to make the Raid 2, but didn't have the budget? So the first one was something he threw together to hopefully one day he could get the budget to make Raid 2. Also, Bloodsport is nowhere near a 2.5. It might be up there with the Raid. Quoting with nostalgia and Stan Bush's epic ballads. So there's a couple of things there that is great. One, he's listened to 2 episodes.
At least 2, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's the podcast community are just rallying around and supporting each other. So thank you, Smoke and Mirrors. Let's hope you've listened to Crocodile Dundee and we've waited till the nth minute of the podcast to give you a shout out.
Great work, Smoke and Mirrors. Love it.
We should do a crossover, like the films. We should do a crossover, Born to Watch versus Smoke and Mirrors.
Okay, we definitely could do that if we want to reach out. We'll reach out and see whether they're keen on doing a bit of a crossover.
Oh,
podcast.
No, don't make the first move. You've got to let them come to us.
Well, this is it. So we're going to throw it out there and see whether they're keen to dabble in a little bit of crossover action.
It's like when Obi-Wan and Hayden Christensen are fighting and Obi-Wan's got the higher ground. Like, we've got to maintain that higher ground.
Yeah, okay. That's funny. Okay, well, another week done. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week when we talk about Animal Kingdom. So
right. Catch you all next week. Looking forward to Animal Kingdom.
Sucked in F-wits. I got in a film I like. Yes.
Prepare to be bored, and we shall see you on the line. That's bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Born to Watch. To join us on our journey into some of our favourite movies of all time, You can find us on all good podcast networks like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you like what you hear, give us a 5-star review and share with your friends.